Welcome back to another episode of Real Chumps, where chatting about movies feels like hanging out with friends. I'm your host, Marcel, and with me is my co-host, Danny.
Hey! This week we're discussing the 1989 film Indiana... Why did I say hey? That was the dumbest thing in the world. Okay.
Oh, leave that in.
This week we are discussing the 1989 film Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, directed by Steven Spielberg with the screenplay by Jeffrey Boehm, George Lucas, Menno Mace? Anyways, starring the Harrison Ford, Sean Connery, Alison Doody, Donald Elliott, John Rhys Davis, and much more.
Keep going.
Denholm? One day, I'm going to just flip the script on this. One day, I'm going to just switch the names, and I'm just going to start, and you're just going to, I'm going to make you do it.
Just say the guy that plays Marcus Brody.
So bad. One day, I'm going to go through, and I'm like, okay, today, I'm not going to get screwed up. And then you're going to add 700 other names.
Nah, keep adding more. Dude, I'm excited for this movie.
Dude, yes. I have to tell you, because I know all the Indiana Jones, I've told you, they kind of get
merged.
Yeah. They get merged. They got like, I don't know, amalgamated into something like just Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And this movie is so good, dude. I'm so glad we decided to do this, because it was like, again, we were like, had the other plans, but I'm so glad we decided to do this.
And listeners, I know I think last week we said we were going to do Temple of Doom.
We decided at the end that we...
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, yeah. You know what? Scratch it.
Yeah.
I'm super excited, but let's... you have a question of the day.
Yeah, I do. Okay. So it's a would you rather. Okay.
Ooh.
Would you rather get stuck in a pit of snakes or stuck in a lion's den?
How many lions are there?
Well, let's just do the one, because from India,
Okay, one. And snakes, they're just... Are the snakes poisonous?
Ooh, I did. I'm going to say they're venomous, but they're not deadly. So it'd suck.
So, like, I'll get bit, and what? I go numb.
You probably have, like, you could go, you might go into shock or something, and it's some sort of venom. You might get numb. You might have to, like, it gets infected. I don't know.
Okay. How long am I stuck?
What is this, a freaking pop quiz? This is a would you rather. You don't get, I'm going to put a timer. I'm going to start bringing a timer. No, okay. My thing is like, okay, like you get...
Maybe I'm thinking of this too much like a X Factor, or not. No.
Yeah, no. This is like...
Not X Factor. What
like, I'm thinking about the movie, okay?
Okay, all right.
Indiana Jones gets into two situations, right?
Yep.
Both of them suck. Pit of snakes and the lion. Okay? So, would you rather, in your life, get stuck in a freaking
Snakes.
You do snakes?
Snakes. I feel like I have a better chance of surviving snakes. I mean, that lion could just lunge at me, and like, what do I do? Like, I'm screwed.
I know.
Whereas snakes, they'll bite me. If they're not poisonous, they're like, I'll go into shock, but I think I'd survive.
Okay, hold on. Does this make a difference? I mean, I was gonna say, is like, because it's a male lion. Does a male lion versus a female? Because I feel like a female lion, I'd 100% I'm dead.
Yeah, she would.
I mean, the female lions are the breadwinners.
They're the hunters, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so like male lions.
Yeah, but at that point, naturally, I'm going to ask, has this male lion been fed recently? Because if he has, then
I'm just a freaking chicken leg.
I think I'll stick with snakes. There's a higher probability that the snakes are not venomous or poisonous,
or they'll even bite,
or that they'll bite me.
Right, because they're more scared of you than you are. Whereas a lion, I'm with you. I'd probably go with snakes. Which begs the question: why is Indiana Jones really scared of the snakes when he freaking had a lion?
Because with the lion, he actually had a defense mechanism.
I know. So to him, psychologically,
psychologically it impacted him in the sense that I fell into a pit well, I fell into a pit of snakes with no way to protect myself. Whereas with the lion, I fell in there and I had a whip to like whip him out. Right? So forever he has PTSD of like being powerless against. I'm analyzing this a bit too much.
All right, Marcel's taking therapy. Yeah, just kidding. We are not licensed therapists.
We're not. Please.
Good stuff. No. Okay, sorry. This is another would you rather.
Okay, yeah, that's it.
He's going spelunking in Moab.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Would you rather go spelunking with the guy, the kid that he was with, the bugle boy from the Boy Scout with Indiana Jones,
yeah.
or the Ham from Sandlot? Is that his name? No.
Is that his name?
It's not his real name. It's just like, yeah.
Or go what with him?
Spelunking.
Oh, so both sinners are spelunking.
So both situations, you're doing the same thing. You're just doing it with two different people. The bugle boy and then the guy who's like the kid. I can't remember his name. It's not Ham. Is it Ham? Is that his nickname? You know what I'm talking about, though, right? From Sandlot, he's like, "Come on, Smalls, you're killing me."
Yeah.
Looking.
Yeah, Ham.
Oh,
Hamilton.
Yeah,
Ham.
Ham. Yeah, Ham.
Yeah, he goes by Ham. I feel like I'll be more entertained with Ham. I feel like the Boy Scout is just going to...
Dude, he's freaking dunce.
Yeah.
So bad.
He'll slow me down. I'll probably die with him. Whereas Ham, if I die, I'll be laughing. So...
I love it. I love it so much. Alrighty.
Let's talk Last Crusade. Wow. I just want to start off with this movie. Like,
this movie aged so... It's priceless. It's timeless.
I'm gonna start out with some bold statements. Ready? One, this movie does not waste a second.
Amen.
The pacing is so good right from the start.
Yes.
Okay. It does, and there's so much happening right from the beginning, both from a screenplay, from visuals, everything. It does not waste a second. So I have it. Let me talk a little bit about my experience with Last Crusade.
Wait. Do you have any other bold statements?
Oh, number two. I know I said this in our first episode about Jurassic Park that I feel like it's not my favorite movie, but I feel like it's a near perfect screenplay, right?
You said near perfect movie.
Near perfect movie. Okay. Sure. Yeah. I think.
Are you gonna say it?
I think Last Crusade is almost a perfect movie.
What? Oh man, we're gonna have to hold a whole nother episode of like what is a perfect movie?
The character growth for every character in this movie, the pacing, the lines. I think also just like in general, like, and I'm looking at this at Last Crusade. I'm also looking. Okay, all right. So yes, that aspect, the screenplay is really good. Here's my third bold statement. This is probably. Okay, you ready for this? This is probably the best third movie in a trilogy of all trilogies.
I approve this message.
What's like? Let's. What's a good third movie of a trilogy?
Of a strict trilogy?
Of a trilogy, yes.
Okay.
Or let's just think trilogies. Let's talk about the first, like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
This is a much better third movie than Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight trilogy.
Yep.
This is better than The Dark Knight Rises.
Yep. I'm trying. Every movie I think about is not a trilogy, and that's why it's kind of like it's like a little bit of a rough curse with trilogies. But I think you're 100% correct. And truly, because I've had some thoughts. I'm like, I think the part of the reason why is that this isn't. It's a trilogy, but it wasn't. This is like the second movie.
Oh, how so?
So in my mind, the way I see this is that like, because Temple Doom is a prequel.
Right.
Okay, which I didn't really know until recently when I rewatched it, and I was like, why does this feel so different?
Which we'll get to Temple of Doom because
we have thoughts. And
I have a lot of thoughts.
And I told you in our first episode, last week's episode, that this movie or the Indiana Jones, like I like Temple of Doom the most.
Yeah.
But as a kid, like growing up, but like, and I guess I'm gonna hop into it. Like, let me talk a little bit about my history about this.
Okay? Yeah.
So my thing is, like, I've told you that all these movies have like kind of like meshed, and it's because I never, up until I think I had watched The Lost Ark from beginning to end. I'd watched The Lost Ark beginning a while back, like several years ago, because I wanted to watch an Indiana Jones film. But I had not watched the Last Crusade from beginning to end until this watch.
Really?
Because every single I'd seen the entire movie, but every single I'd been in chunks of at some point in my life because it was TV or friends or like whatever, and like I had like it just didn't finish because I don't know. I was an idiot. Not that I knew that it was a great movie, but like I truly, like, to my knowledge, I think that this watch was my first beginning to end watch.
Beginning to end, yeah. And it's so good.
It's amazing. The other thing is, I was like, dude, freaking that's Moab, and I'm like over there, that's Moab.
Yeah.
And it says, but I'm like, and I just think like, because like when you do go to Moab, it is one of the most scenic places. For like Western.
It's beautiful.
And I love that it was filmed there. I love that it was like it's a Utah thing, and the fact that it's like, if not a perfect movie, a nearly perfect movie. Because I 100% agree with you with the fact that like and this is why I feel like it's a third movie in a trilogy, but it doesn't follow the like third movie struggles.
Yeah.
Because it's not a third movie struggle. It's a second movie. We've got Temple of Doom is a prequel. Not to say that it was like it's a prequel in the sense of like giving a better context of who Indiana Jones, like his like this guy who goes on these things and he just happens upon these situations and he stumbles upon like he's like this archaeologist that gets put into the situation. Okay. The first, the Raise of the Lost Ark that we reviewed last week, as we well know, that is like, it is a great movie. We fully are like, it introduces us to the character of Indiana Jones in the sense of like who he really is.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, he's not just like in Temple of Doom, even though, it's just his journey is like an experience. But in Raiders of the Lost, we get context, we get him in a spot, we see who he is. This movie, we see where he's come from. It's his journey. We have this completion of like the culmination of like the situation, the context of like the cusp of World War II. And then you have on top of that Spielberg's masterwork, and like he's got buy-in, right? He's got, so he can go, he can do.
Yeah.
He's got the buy-in from studios. He's got he wants to tell, everything he wants to do. It gets in here and it feels complete. And so to me, when I think about, look at this situation, I think he gets control in a lot of cases what happens with the second movie, and then that second movie does well, just as well, or if not better, and then you get the third one, and it always comes back into like, we want to make money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so to me, I feel like Temple of Doom is kind of like that weird flop, where like I don't know this backstory of the Temple of Doom,
dude.
And so we'll get to it. But that's the thing, is like, I feel like the Temple of Doom had that struggle.
Yeah.
And then they're like, whatever. And they went back and they just trusted the team.
Yeah. And I think, this coming off of Temple of Doom was criticized pretty roughly.
Yeah.
And we'll talk Temple of Doom, but it's interesting how they decided to go, well, the first one, Raiders, was good because of these elements. How do we bring those elements back again? But they did. They brought back, the whole conflict between the Nazis. They brought back an artifact, a religious artifact. They bring back these elements, but it is not a rehash of Raiders. And it is so good how they executed it, how it was written, and it is an incredible movie. I hadn't seen this in probably this. I mentioned this in our previous episode, but like this was my first take on Indiana Jones. So like for me, I grew up watching Last Crusade, and then I saw Raiders, and then lastly I saw Temple of Doom. But this is my Indiana Jones, and I hadn't seen this probably in like 12 years. And now I'm like watching it again. I'm like, yeah, another hot take. I think this movie's gonna like. I think it just became like in my top 10.
Oh, top 10
of all time.
I'd probably put it in my top 5. It'd probably be in the my low 5, but it'd be my it's up there.
Like it's really good.
Let's get into some of the aspects that makes it great. I want to start with the pacing and why. Like, let's start with pacing and like just the overall like feel of the movie. Okay, so I think that really, and when we talk about pacing, look, editing doesn't get talked about a lot when it comes to like just movie experiences. Okay, and the reason why part of it is like it's hard to like distinguish, but we can talk about it in the pacing. Pacing, I feel like, is a wonderful way of giving love to the editor, or even to the fact that like we don't feel it, like the saying goes. A good editor isn't noticed. So a good edit doesn't get, isn't impacted, right? Yeah. If you're watching a movie and something's happening and something feels jarring, the editor's done a bad job. Okay. And so to me, like you said, and I've read it again, now it's for you, is like from the get-go, it pulls you in, there's enough, and this is the same thing they did with the first one, right? You get pulled into like Indiana's world. Yeah. In this time, it's back to a little bit more of like the understanding of a little bit of why Indiana is who he is.
I love with that.
It's not only an origin story.
Yeah, like it's an origin story.
It's an origin story, but it's that like which. This is, I think I said, when did I say this? Was this in the Flash? I think I said in our Flash review that I was like, just give me a freaking, don't give me the origin story every single time. I think going back at a different point of a trilogy or a movie sequence for the origin story to have it be meaningful for the greater story is 100% why you should use an origin story.
I have a question I've been dying to ask you.
Okay.
All week since I watched this. Okay. And it's in line with this. One, I love this origin story. And I want to flesh this out because this time I was watching it, I'm like, this is great. I love this origin. I also like find it kind of funny how like every impactful moment that made Indiana Jones who he is all happened in one day.
Like what doesn't? I mean, for the most part, like
his fear of snakes, getting his whip, his fedora hat, like it all happened like in one day for him. I love it. It's kind of funny. But here's my question, and I had this thought: why is it that this origin story works so well when I look at, for example, Pirates of the Caribbean? Okay, the most recent one where I don't even know how many pirates there are now, but the most recent one with Javier Bardem as the villain, and in that one they do an origin story of how Jack Sparrow. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen this.
Okay, never mind.
No, it's okay. Just go.
So in that one, they show how Jack Sparrow gets the hat, gets the compass, etc. Okay,
this is strange. Not strange. I think I did see it. Maybe. Anyways, doesn't matter. So he gets it's the whole story of Jack Sparrow.
Yeah,
but it doesn't land.
It doesn't land for me. Second, Solo. You watch Solo?
I watched Solo.
Okay. In that one, we find out how he gets the name Solo, how he gets the blaster, etc. For me, I just felt like it was heavy-handed. It was forced. I don't know how you felt about it. why is it that it works so well in this movie?
Look, I think there's a couple of things. Okay, one, we already have context who Indiana Jones is. Okay, so we're not, and I think that Solo, the movie, the whole movie is a little bit more of like him getting, it's the longer version. I'm gonna focus on Solo.
Yeah.
Not just because I think in Jack Sparrow it's probably because like they just were like, let's finally give some like context to him, and like they probably put it in like the middle of the movie.
No, it was right at the beginning.
It was right at the beginning.
Right at the beginning. It was a flashback
Same
scene.
situation.
Yeah.
As this one. So I'm gonna have to. I'll review it. We'll talk offhand, or maybe I'll do another video on it for the viewers at home. Okay. Yeah. But let's talk about Solo. Okay. And I think what it comes down to is the fact that like we don't have like in this situation, and even like we have it. It's we've already know who Indiana Jones is. We know that this is an iconic situation for him. Okay. The whip, the fear snakes, his fedora, leather jacket.
Yeah.
Okay. Sense of, it belongs in a museum. Okay. These are the core aspects when you think of Indiana Jones that make him who he is. Okay. When it comes to, and then on top of that, it comes down to the sense of purpose for the story, and that these things, because we put in, part of this comes into the writing. Okay. All this happens in one day, like you said, but at the same time, we get a showing of an unattentive father who's obsessed with the Holy Grail, right?
Yep.
And so we get an introductory situation to how this ends up playing later in the film. I'm not saying it's hard to make it work when you want to make it expand a universe, okay? So I think what people and creators and myself, when I think about this, as you ask me now, and I'm trying to process this, is that like I think when it comes to an origin story, if you're going to try to do an origin story movie, you've got to come down to the fact that what makes the character who they are, not to you create the elements that make that character into a story that impact, whether that be in the individual story in the movie, right? Like they did here in Indiana Jones, right? There is a setup, and the setup includes the origin story for this actual film, which is why I think this works. And if you aren't going to do that, if you're going to make it an entire film of who this person is, then you need to make the film be a good, like the story of this situation that ends up making who this person is the thing that is like shapes the situation. Which is why I think Batman, they always include it, because it's like this, everyone knows it, but at the end of the day, it literally shapes who he is. And we get this in The Flash, right? Like in The Flash, the Batman situation literally changes entirely who he is. And if it didn't happen, he would not be who he is.
Yeah.
And so to me, with this origin, because like I think about Wolverine, that's another one that I think like they tried to do an origin story sort of situation. Again, doesn't like it. It was like, okay, it didn't like, not one of the best, X-Men movies that came out in situation. So I think to me, when I think about this, it's about what is the setup doing, or how do you help create the origin to be the setup for a greater portion of the story in the movie or in the overall universe, right? That the payoff is, and I think again back to Batman, is that the payoff is this thing then drives Batman.
Yeah.
In Indiana Jones, it's not that this experience, whatever, it's the fact that like, although he had all these situations happen, right? He gets to his father, nothing ever happens, and he's left with this other figure who is trying to chase him, show him appreciation, right? So there's conflict
and contrast.
The things that what's his name? Who wrote The West Wing? Sorkin. So Sorkin has this whole thing in his masterclass. I wish I had an affiliate link. If I did, I'll put it in the link. But the thing is like in his thing he talks about how if you want to make a good movie, like if you don't have any conflict, that's just facts. It's just events, and that's just journalism, right? And so to me, at the end of the day, I think that's why like Solo really people harp is that like there is conflict, but there's not conflict of Solo as a character. It's conflict for Solo as an individual in a world in a Star Wars film, right?
Yeah.
Like it never was like, okay, he was faced with a situation, and whether that be through this series of events that happens, he then has these things that become who Solo is.
Sure.
The gun on the hip, the like Millennium Falcon, him being a renegade, everyone is always chasing him, X, Y, and Z, right? We get this with Indiana Jones. We get his whole perspective from the get-go with the conflict. This artifact belongs in a museum, and I'm going to put it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I like that. I think, and going to like the Pirates example, because that one is very similar. It's like right at the beginning, it's a flashback, it's whatever. You mentioned something. There has to be a payoff, right? And there's that conflict of what shapes him to be who he is, who Indiana Jones is that day. Whereas I feel like
just tell me what happened to this, because like
so the villain in that Stranger's Tide on I don't remember.
I feel like it's Stranger Tides, but I'm not going to look it up. So anyways, so they open it up. He gets his hat. He gets his the
yeah. He is just like a member of the ship of the Black Pearl. Okay, from what I remember. And Javier Bardem's character is, or the captain of the Black Pearl is killed. So then Johnny or Sparrow steps up to it, and then he does this cool maneuver on the ship to trick Javier Bardem's character into a trap. They get burned, they die, and then they get their curse. And then in that scene, he picks up the hat, he picks up the compass. He steps up on top of the Black Pearl, and he becomes
Jack Sparrow.
And that's how he is Jack Sparrow, right?
And that's it.
And that's kind of it.
See, and
he doesn't even talk, actually.
Okay. So here's where I think the situation is. It would have been, I think the one thing they could, because I think to me, the biggest thing about Jack Sparrow that is the most intriguing is the compass. The compass has always been this thing that he always obsesses over.
Right.
That's right.
Which points to the thing that he
wants the most. The most desirable thing, right? Yeah. And I don't know, I can't remember which one it is. But to me, I think that if they wanted to make that land well, it wasn't just like, oh, he wins and it's glorious. He didn't have it. There was a conflict in like the situation, but him personally doesn't really get a conflict with that situation. Where in this, the conflict is that he doesn't have Indiana Jones doesn't have a father that pays attention to him trying to, interact. He's just worried about him being astute and informational. When then this one character, and we don't know if he stays into contact with this individual.
Right.
I don't know if we know his name, but like
Fedora is what he's called on the script. Yeah.
So Fedora, he finds recognition and finds acceptance in him because of this thing. So the setup and payoff happens in the scene, so that's why like you have that it needs to be that. And this is the fundamental. This is why I'm so glad we're doing this podcast, because it just reminds me and helps me when we ever do a movie.
Yeah.
That we have to be reminded that ultimately everything that not everything, but like a good chunk of things need to have that setup and payoff. Otherwise, you're misleading or you're just cheapening the experience for the viewer.
Exactly. And it's I love that Fedora then says to him at the very end, "You lost today, kid, but that doesn't mean you have to like it." And that tells us everything about Indy.
Boom.
He's constantly losing. And we talked about this, right? He is not a very efficient archaeologist. Like, he's not. Like, he's constantly losing. But he keeps going. And because he loses, like, that's fine. I lost this battle, but I'm going to keep going, right? Yeah. It doesn't mean that I have to like it. It's so good. I love this opening sequence. River Phoenix, rest in peace, like, so good as young Indiana.
I know.
It is just an incredible intro, an incredible origin. Just going back to Solo, like you talk about conflict, right? Solo, if you remember, how was he given the name Solo?
Dude, I don't remember.
He just walks up to like, he's trying to escape.
Yeah, and he comes up with it, right?
No, some guy, he's like, what's your last name? And he's like, I don't have one. And so like the Imperial Guard just says, okay, Han Solo. And just let them like, one, I didn't need to have like an origin on his last name.
Right.
Second, the way you define the origin of his last name, there is no payoff. There is no conflict, and there's no reason for you to give me that.
And then on only that, it like cheapens him.
It cheapens him.
No, thank you so much for pointing that out, dude. That's such a great line. And it literally is epitome, and it reemphasizes the fact that like, look, we don't need to cheapen our hero.
Yeah.
Right? What we need to do is we need to give us, if we're going to do an origin story, right? We need to give the context of what the situation is. And if we're going to have a quip, that's not like, they should have used that line for that situation in more of a like as like a funny little thing towards the end of a situation, right? That something that has happened that does shape who Han is as a character. Right? Maybe that's like him.
He's always screwing people over. He's, double crossing.
And he's out for himself. And then like, instead of being like, oh, you're Solo, more like, no, this guy, he's going to leave you.
He's always looking out for number one. And so it's better for him to just be Solo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like, again, it's just the thing of the situation. And not only that, but like at the end of the day, it then carries, it sets the whole tone for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Because we have this whole, and not only that, let's get into the actual quest. It's the quest of the Holy Grail. What better of a way? To me, I love that they went with the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Than because you get another payoff, not payoff, but like another, like it's a love to the fact that like the first one was a holier like relic. But also it's that quest that like is like that mythical quest of all quests.
Yeah. I think like my first introduction to like Templars was this movie as a kid. To the Holy Grail was this movie. Like that's how I got introduced to these concepts and to these mythological aspects, right? That are so of history. It was through the Last Crusade, and it's such a great callback, I guess, to holy artifacts, right? Let's actually talk about this quest for the Holy Grail. In contrast, let's look at Raiders. Raiders, the reason why he goes out looking for
the Ark
is mainly because he's pulled in because of what's her name? Ravenwood. Miriam,
I think so.
Marion. Okay. There's a personal reason for him to go look, right? Yes, Ravenwood was his mentor. Yeah, he dated his daughter.
There was conflict with Nazis, but
there's a personal attachment because Ravenwood, even though we don't know who he is or what he is, we know there's a personal attachment. He doesn't go out looking for the Holy Grail in this movie. That's not what he's called to do. He's called to go look for his dad who's gone missing. It's such a great story point or story or reason to bring our character into this conflict is that your dad has gone missing and now you have to go look for him, right? And I think yes, he's searching for the Holy Grail, but he's not. He's actually searching for his dad, and as we're searching for dad, we're finding clues and evidences and figuring out puzzles to find the Holy Grail.
Well, and
it makes it personal.
It makes it personal, okay? Not only does it make it personal, but like I love that in this film we get the sense of Indiana's life as a professor. Mm-hmm. We've talked about the glasses situation and like a total Clark Kent, total situation, and so we get same situation. We have the opening intro. We get cut back to the professor. He gets, he's brought in by his what's the freaking like his like director,
Marcus Brody, right?
Yeah, but what's his like his is that his name in the movie?
Yeah.
I never keep these guys' names right. And I just think about Indiana Jones. And I'm like, everyone else is uncool.
Everyone else is just there.
No. But yeah. So Marcus Brody, he comes in, he's trying to talk with him. He's got his like secretary. He's got all of these freaking students there. And he goes into a closet. It's a closet with like little shelves. And this is like what was so good. Again, every moment, every set piece, so motivated to help emphasize the showing and not telling of a specific character. Now, don't get me wrong, like it's hard to like Spielberg is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And it's something that like I'm grateful that we can look at these films and think about this because like he walks in and he like in at the table as big as ours, maybe smaller.
Probably smaller, yeah.
And then he's got surrounded by artifacts.
Artifacts everywhere.
Without a doubt,
he has fought for.
He's went and figured it out, or has a colleague that has said, "Yo, I need your help to finish getting this," or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's going in and he's trying to do whatever he needs to do. And then him leaving his office through the window and being called to like the sketchiest car for this time period. Why did he get in this car?
So true.
Right? And then being called on this mission.
Yeah.
Right? And I love that he's going after his dad. Especially when we're like, what is his relationship to his father?
Yeah.
Because he's so passionate on wanting to find him. Even though it's something that he knows his dad's obsessed with. He said, like...
He says it, right? Oh, I'm not the right Jones for this, right? You should probably go talk to Henry. And there's an intrigue because again, there was a setup of a lack of interest from his dad in that origin story. And now he's being called to go search for dad. And as a viewer, it's like, why, if that is such a quote unquote horrible person or a horrible father to you, right?
Yeah.
And so, and we see that as the movie progresses, like that relationship, that dynamic. Well, actually, let's talk about that. Let's talk about this theme of like father-son relationship.
Dude, I freaking...
Or even just, let's talk about Sean Connery. Oh my gosh.
Dude, you know what? This probably is my favorite Sean Connery.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why. I'm not exactly what I can... I don't have anything... I don't have any words to like pinpoint the exact reason why.
It's the fact that when you think of Sean Connery, you think James Bond, right? Yeah. He's great in Entrapment, in
freaking dude,
the Rock, right? Like, but he's always playing this like
suave
action hero, and he is the complete opposite in this.
Yeah,
and I'm surprised that he didn't do any more comedic roles because he nails it. He's good on the timing. He's good with his facial expressions. He's really good as a comedic actor. And I think that's probably like, I hate to say this, like, but the viewers, like, I think this is my favorite, like, Sean Connery, acting.
You know, I think that is what it is. I think it's hard to say, like, because like, I don't know. It's hard because like we've got Harrison Ford, also good looking, suave, like women, in the film, fictionally, and off the film in real life, even till today, still with both men, right? Yeah. Again, Sean Connery, suave in films, and then even off the film, every girl was like Sean Connery,
yeah,
right? So you have these two powerhouses, and then having Sean Connery like play a back seat. I don't know if that's what it is. I don't know if it's him just respecting like the role, and it's showing his prowess in sense of like why he does what he does, and why we have this blessing of Sean Connery in this film, because it truly there's something about it. is just so good.
Yes, I think there is that element, but I also think a lot of it is in the screenplay. Right?
It's the writing.
It's the writing. Like,
and then the director.
Yeah, they wrote Henry Jones Sr. as this academic, right? As someone, because there are times where, like, okay, when he saves them, right, and he, like, they're tied to the chair, they break out of it, and like he gets Indy gets a gun and starts shooting the Nazis.
And he's just like staring at,
like, you just shot that guy. Like, he is so in disbelief and in shock.
The entire movie, I love that way he like thinks his son has just died and he's still trying to process it, and Indiana Jones shows right behind him, you know, and he's like, "What are you staring at?" And he's like, like, just complete disbelief once again.
Yeah, I think we get these like nuggets throughout the movie that are written in the script for him to react to. Right?
You're 100% correct. You know why I know this? It's because we see this with his growth at the end, because what we see here is that we have Indiana Jones living. Because his father was such an academic, and he saw his head was in the knowledge. What Indy finds is that, like, the journey doesn't always happen on the page, right? And so you see this happen, and finally, right, when this thing, the completion of whatever, and he's holding Indy, we learn once again to let it go.
Yeah, yeah.
This lesson of, like, man, I should have been because he had all the pieces. He had every piece that he needed to be able to find the Grail. Yeah. The only reason why he didn't is that he wasn't. He was too busy looking for everything that at the end of the day he was never, like, I mean, to a degree, find like perhaps in the right weeds, right? Sure. Because he was in the weeds. Yeah, yeah. But there's this aspect of, like, Indiana Jones doesn't, and I think I'm gonna come back to the Temple of Doom. In the Temple of Doom, he just kind of like falls into this thing. Yeah, yeah. Right?
There's no real motivation for him to go on this journey. Yes,
on the journey.
Yes.
On every journey that we see with Indiana Jones, like he's brought in for a reason, to, like, for a consult, because he's an expert, but it's because he's like showing up, and he knows, he's knowledgeable, he's experienced, he's willing to get, because the thing belongs in a museum. And so you see his father see what it takes. Yeah. Right? Because if it was up to him, they would have never made it.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. Sean Connery is so good. And
what's your favorite Sean Connery clip
here
for this movie?
Dude, I love, and I laughed so hard this time when they're escaping the castle. Okay. And they get on the motorcycle, and it has, like, the sidecar, and Sean Connery's sitting there, and he's holding his briefcase. And the first one, like he Indy grabs, like, I don't know, like some pole, and he, like, does, like, a whole javelin stab at the guy. Yeah, yeah. And, like, Indy is kind of, like, proud of himself, and he looks at his dad kind of smiles a bit, but then every other time he takes out people, his dad is just holding there and just gives him, Sean Connery just gives him this look of, like,
did I raise you this way?
Like, not even, like, he's not even impressed. Like, he's not even, it doesn't even face him. I love just, like, the 2-3 times that he looks at his dad, and Sean Connery just, like, okay, like, let's just keep going. Like, I don't care. Like, get me out of here. Like, he's just so unfazed by it.
Dude, my favorite, I think, is the like Mexican standoff that they got with the Nazi and the girl and Sean Connery and Indy.
Okay.
Like, that scene for me, I just think is like, he's like, dude, don't listen to her.
She's a Nazi.
She's a Nazi. And then the whole, like, did they both slept?
Oh my gosh! Again, the writing, it is so good. These bits and pieces that we're given,
like the writing, the freaking delivery. Like, to me, it's just like that scene is like.
How did you know? Oh, because she talks in her sleep.
freaking, I love. I just and
Ford's look.
he's
It's
just
so
like,
good.
and then he's like, oh man, and then him still trying to believe that she's not a Nazi.
Yeah, yeah.
And him 100% believing. Listen, come on, bro. Come on. Come on, son.
Oh, it's so good. I do want to talk about is it the Zeppelin? The Zeppelin scene. Okay.
Yes.
You talk about this like dynamic between Indy and Henry. But like I also love, I think this is my second favorite scene with Sean Connery. They're talking on the table, right? And Harrison Ford just kind of letting it out. Like, you were never present, you were never there as a father. And there's this line that Henry says of like, are you kidding me? Like, I was the best father because like I let you do whatever you wanted. Like, you didn't have a curfew or like something along those lines, right? And then he says, and by the time you finally got interesting, you left the house.
Yeah.
Like, what a blow. Like, oh, you finally became interesting as a person, Indy, but then like
You were gone.
you were gone. And that whole, like, again, that whole writing is just so good to, like, it tells us this relationship. He was so in the weeds in his focus and finding the Grail. There's resentment from Indy towards the Grail and his father because of his obsession, right? And then there's the line that Sean Connery says, like, okay, I'm here. He closes the book and he says, let's talk.
Yeah.
Right?
And his delivery.
And he has nothing to say.
Yeah.
And that tells us everything. Not because Indiana doesn't have anything to say, but because, at least the way I take it is, where do I start?
When I was watching this, this scene is such a powerful scene.
It's powerful
because to me, it's the setup for the end. Okay, it's the triggering moment that's like, he has the final confrontation. We don't know how long they haven't seen each other.
Yeah,
my assumption is several years.
Yeah.
Maybe they like talk on maybe a Christmas or whatever, but like truly like been in the same room together. This is probably the first time, right? And so to me, when he doesn't have anything to, I'm like, it's that he like, you're now expecting me to try to like connect with you, that like, because you want to, like, you're now ready for me to talk.
You're now ready for me to talk to you. Yeah.
It's like, what do you say to that? I can't, like, movies take from each other. Okay.
Yeah.
Flash had a scene where with Barry Prime sitting down with his parents, he's like shoving his mom's spaghetti into his mouth because he's missed it. And he's like obsessingly like, oh, could we go to like the park or whatever? Right. I never felt like that scene was okay. It wasn't like impactful. And obviously it's like, he's like excited to be in the situation. But the reason why I bring it up is because I think what Indiana Jones does is that he gives us, we have this, that this idea of a parent to child relationship is such an impactful one, right? That really shapes not only film characters, our own lives.
Yeah.
And why I think, to me, I think these are the moments that really shape a film for reflection for viewers, because we can sit in Indiana Jones' position, many of us, or maybe few of us, and think to ourselves, man, I'm grateful that I had a dad that was attentive.
Yeah.
Or, man, Indy, I know how you feel.
I know how you feel. Yeah. Oh, it's such a great scene. Like,
phenomenal.
I love it. I love that interaction. And I think
it makes us feel.
It makes us feel.
Because we just had this like exciting moment of him fighting and freaking Connor just reading the freaking newspaper.
Yeah.
Right? And then we just like sit down and it's just like a breath. But it's not just like a comic relief.
Right.
It's you sit there and you're like, this is real.
They've escaped the castle. They've been hunted down. We're seeing how Henry feels about all these antics from Indy, and for them to finally sit down, for them as characters to finally sit down and have a breathing moment, and us as an audience as well to just sit down and be like, okay, what is this dynamic?
They could have easily moved the Holy Grail conversation.
Yeah.
Right? These are the moments to make a film. Okay? It's not the action. The action's fun.
Yes. Yeah.
What,
of course.
Was it your quote that's like give us the action, but give us the moment of story as the cherry on
the action is the
cherry on top, but give us the conflict and story and the feelings is the
cake.
I'll have to pull that off.
You
said it.
How did I say it? Or did I say the frosting? No, was it the frosting? Or something like that.
I'll find the clip and I'll insert it.
I think that's, looking back, I think that's probably my favorite scene. Like I really like
As your favorite scene.
Because it just really sets, there's setup earlier. There's this great writing and interacting between the two, and then because of this we get a good payoff later in the movie, right? And and Sean Connery is so good. They're both great in this.
Phenomenal.
Such a great theme there. I want to talk a little bit about Elsa, the female character.
Yeah,
she's awesome.
She is.
She's really good. And I think, okay, so I think from now on, for me, when I rewatch Indiana Jones, I'm going to start with Temple of Doom. Okay?
Yeah.
I'll start with Temple of Doom. I'll watch Raiders, and then I'll watch Last Crusade. But, again, talking a little bit about Temple of Doom. Willie, our female character in that movie, and we'll talk about this in greater detail. Wow, like just nonsense. Okay? Whereas Elsa and Marion, she's an equal to, and we talked about this in our episode, to Indy in the sense of like she goes
I would say her like,
boldness, her character, her like personal character of like and her
adventurer.
Her spirit of adventure, right? She's an equal to Indy in that, whereas Elsa is an equal on the academic side. I feel like, right, there are times where like she's helping find the clues or figure out clues to the treasure map, and I think it's such an awesome and unique dynamic, right? And there's that attraction between the two of them, but I think she's really written down. And again, looking at what we talked about last episode, these movies, Steven Spielberg wanting to do a James Bond movie, right? You have the classic Bond girls. Here you have the classic Jones girls. And I think Elsa is such a great addition to the Jones girls.
I was a little unsure because, again, like I said, like I've seen this film like all parts, never from beginning to end. And to me, the thing that I was a little like, I was like, okay, I see this. I loved the crypt sequence.
Yeah,
the crypt scenes were like in fun. You could get a sense of that, which I want to talk about that whole situation in a little bit. But then for me, where I felt was the payoff that I felt like she is. They did her right.
Yeah,
was in the book burning in Germany. Mm-hmm. They're going to get the journal, and her fear. She's on like the end of Henry, where she's willing enough to get a little bit, but she's an academic.
She's in it for the academics
and like the prestige to a degree, right? Yeah. Like this, like, oh no, I'm smart enough to play with the big boys, and because it's still misogynistic time. And so like, I love that they have a strong female character rather than in James Bond where it's like just a female,
Just a female.
which females are not.
Yeah.
You know, and so to me, I love that. But on top of it is the subtext that happens in the conversation between her and Indy as Indy's leaving, because she's distraught. She doesn't know what she should do.
Yeah, yeah.
Because she does not hold true with the fact that people should be burning books.
Mm-hmm.
Henry then jabs at her later in the film, right?
Yeah.
And to me is what, like, I there's, to a degree, it's like the thing, like Indy he loses, in a weird way, he loses Elsa, right? In like, as like the character, like where in Miriam, he wins for some time or whatever. I don't know. We don't know what the situation is, right? But for Elsa, she doesn't come to accept the situation, right? She's still left in her ideology. It doesn't make that journey. But it's a great, not a payoff, but a payoff, because we see what happens when you don't.
Sure. And even like at the end, right? Like going back to Marion, like she went on this adventure with him just because she got dragged into it to a degree, right? And she's constantly like put in situations the way she was written, or her situations were written. She was constantly in need of saving, etc. But like Elsa, she's in there because of the academics, right? Yeah, there's conflict because, and you know, good old classic trope of writing your villains where they're a villain but they don't agree with the ideologies of, in this case, of the Nazis. But even to the very end, like she tricks what's the bad guy's name? Donovan. She tricks Donovan, right, to choosing the wrong Grail because she still wants to find, and she continues to the very end to help Indy find the right one.
And then she's obsessed.
Yeah.
With retrieving it.
Yeah.
Right. To the fact that she can't let go of the fact that she's going to lose her life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because
she is so obsessed with that Getty. And it's that, like, I don't know if there's a term for this. I'm sure if there's like some, you know, like professor class thing, but like this idea that there's that, this happen, because I think this does happen quite a few times in films that help add to that, like the main hero getting the win of the change, right?
Yeah.
Is that there, because she fights with herself, but she kind of goes back and forth. But it's that moment where even Indy's trying to help her make the change, right? And again, then get it with Henry and Indy, that we see what happens when you decide to this thing isn't gonna, like, it's not what's important, I guess.
Yeah, it's not what's important, yeah.
Right? You can have all eternity, but you can only stay in this one cavern. And at the end of the day, I want to be able to live a life with my son.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And so, I don't know, they did a good job.
They did a great job. And going back to that scene in Germany, right? Like when he confronts her and they're talking about it, and he holds her by the neck and he's like, all I have to do is just squeeze harder.
Oh, I know, that was...
And what does she say? All I have to do is scream louder.
I know.
So good. I'm obsessing with the screenplay with this movie.
You're not wrong.
It is.
It's funny because you obsessed with the screenplay and I'm obsessed with the filming and the editing and the delivery, the whole package. Let's you have so the themes, you have a quest for identity. I want to talk a little bit more about that.
Okay. We touched lightly on this about how why does Indy get pulled into this, right? And at first it's to find his dad, right? And he gets pulled into it to find dad, but during this whole time in my opinion, we get a complete arc of Indy.
Yeah.
Right? The dynamic, it becomes personal, right? We talked about this in our episode of Come On a couple weeks ago, where Mike Mills, the director of that movie, said, I wish I had the quote, but he said something along the lines that We truly come to know ourselves based on our relationships with others, right? And in this case, we come to know Indy so much more based on that relationship or lack of relationship with his dad. And it isn't about finding the grail. It's about finding a relationship with his dad.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But we'll get there, but very briefly, this was my first time watching it again. But I actually really like this parent father-son relationship that he has with Henry. I actually also like the father-son relationship he has with Mutt in that movie. Okay. And I think, again, talking about setups and payoffs, he finds a purpose in this movie to have that relationship with his dad, to build on it. And it all pays off really well at that very end scene when he's reaching for the grail. He wants it, even though he never cared for it.
Yes.
He resented it.
Yeah. And yet he's there. It's like, I kind of have this, like, what? It's like a weird sense of transference.
Yeah.
Because he's in the same situation he just dealt with it with Elsa.
Uh-huh.
Right? But because it's there and he can get it a little bit closer, right? It's like, it's the reaching for, maybe metaphorically speaking, the reaching for, if I can get this, maybe my dad.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. I'd been pondering and thinking about, why did he reach for it? Why was he so adamant? Is it the academic? Is it himself that this deserves to be in a museum? Or is it, let's put it back for the old Templar to hang on to? Why did he reach for it? And that's what it is, right? Is it that if I can get it, I can now, my dad will look at me as,
hey, we did this
together.
And but it's because it's like, even though he does, like they did do it together, but at the end of the day, he still was so obsessed with this artifact, this quest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's him, and that's why Henry's line, Indy, it's okay, just let it go,
Just let it go,
right?
And that tells Indy, I no longer care, or not that I don't care, but like, there are more important things, such as you, Indy.
And I think it's the payoff to, like, I'm here now, right? I'm here now to have a conversation and be able to go there. But he still doesn't quite see Indy in the moment as like you are my son. He sees him as a son, but he doesn't see him as like that person of like, we will share thoughts and ideas and like moments together. Like you said with Mark, you know who you are because of the people that you are around, right? That like, to him, he doesn't see him as someone who is impactful to his character, right? Henry. But when he after being shot, and my thought is like, he's muttering the clues and just the idea, like, just, you can do this, right? To me, I feel like it's in that moment where he's realizing some of the things that perhaps he's gone on with Indy just through this journey.
And I think this brings me to like one of my major thoughts from this movie. As I've been watching this trilogy, the first Raiders, I was like, okay, what is this movie telling us? And I don't think I got to ask you that during our episode, but like, what was the message in that movie, right? Like, don't look at God. Like, God was gonna destroy you. Like, well,
You're gonna be your dad.
Like, Temple of Doom. I have no idea. Like, Temple of Doom was just
Temple. I don't. So again, I to me, that was just a setup.
Yes, and that's why you have to watch from now on. For me, watch Temple of Doom first, Raiders, then Last Crusade.
Yes, that's what I'm telling you.
Because Last Crusade has very clear messages.
Yeah, and I think that's a great question. I think that sometimes what I'm realizing with your question is that like movies do need to have themes, right, to help maybe give us a sense of like, no, it doesn't have to be like the most powerful theme or whatever.
No.
But it needs to give us a theme to be able to like help move or give us a context for some of the conflicts and some of the things that are happening, right? You know, and then because of the thing that is the big thing that's the motivator of the film, right? That theme then helps play into what's happening.
Yeah.
But the messaging, I don't necessarily think that like every film has to have a messaging, but
Sure.
But the movie that ends up getting the messaging, I think come because that there is a win in the sense of like there is the journey that the journey takes place for the character, and we are taking that journey with that individual. And I think I'm going to go back to The Flash. The Flash has a similar like lack. It's a different, it's the sense of like lack of connection with parent figures.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we have the same thing with Indiana Jones, and at the end of the day, we learn the same lesson in The Flash and in this, and in both instances, like there's in The Flash, obviously there's like other things that are like conflicts or whatever, but at the end of the day, like I said, like you look back at this film, obviously the Flash is not going to hold up.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it's not going to hold up in a lot of cases, but the messaging is still there, and you're still going to have a good time. And at the end of the day, you're like, yeah, doing it again, let it go, and that's a great message that a lot of other movies still take into place that like what we think is important to us, and that's why like if you're going to do a film like this, and it's going to be part of like a franchise, it doesn't mean that from the get-go it needs to be that, right? I think this is what I learned here from Indiana Jones, right? They wanted to bring an interesting character to life, right? He wanted a James Bond for America.
Yeah.
He found it in archaeology, right? But he establishes a character. He gives perhaps a little bit more of like the sense of commitment Indiana does with Temple of Doom, and then he gives us why like the growth of ultimately why Indiana Jones is who he is, what he believes in, and why like he will go to do the adventure, the like I don't know,
the call to
what is it, the call to find the things that were undiscoverable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Right. And so you have this thing that's there. Right. And so what ultimately my rambling, what does this come to is the fact that like, I think we can learn that if we're going to make a series, if we're going to make a movie that's going to be a trilogy or whatever, not every single one has to have a huge deep meaning. Sometimes you just have to like introduce the characters and have people buy it. I think the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, I think struggled. They did a good job with the first one.
Yeah.
They brought in Newt, brought him as a character, did a good job. But from that point on, I think she kind of got too in the, J.K. Rowling got into too in the weeds, trying to make every single one after that be like some sort of very super impactful. They were supposed to have 5.
Yeah, they were supposed to have 5.
Right?
We
only got 3.
We got to 3.
And it was like, again, so I think to me, like, it's like, okay, well, if we're going to do a 5, which one's going to have to be more? It's okay if we just, as long as we progress the story, right, in some manner, right? And I think, I'm glad that we haven't reviewed Temple, but we did watch all 3 of them. You watched the Crystal Skull. I haven't got to that one yet, but, and we'll talk about it.
Ready? I have lots of thoughts on it.
and so, but seeing them in together, it's like, it's nice to know that like each of them tell a portion of the story for Indy. It doesn't mean that they tell a story for us as like the viewer in this whatever.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, it gives us a better picture. And like if you look at them in that grouping, there, and that's why I'm excited for this next one. because they kind of went back. They had a struggle with this with the situation, and I think they're gonna fall.
Fingers crossed.
every little whatever you need. Salt.
Everyone salt.
The Dial of Destiny is gonna follow more of this journey that they learned from the Last Crusade.
I hope so. I really hope so.
I know we're over, but I just think it's beneficial.
Last thing I want to talk about is John Williams is so good in this movie. This is the best Indiana Jones. And from the pacing we've talked about, from the characters, from the story, from the editing and the music here. Like he wrote the themes for the Nazis. It's got this like Imperial March to it from like Star Wars. Like it is just the best score of all the Indiana Jones movies is this one.
I would then once again reiterate your bold statements that I think part of we is the feeling that we are left with at the end of this movie, and the love that we end up having is even emphasized because of the amazing, like the score emphasizes and helps lift and connect the scenes unlike any of the other films for the Indy franchise.
Yeah.
And then you have the completion of it with just the most, just like, it just like swells. It's like beautiful. It's the Indy theme, but it's like slightly, like more majestic because of this ending. And they're riding off in the distance with the horses.
Into the sunset. It's so good.
Truly.
It's good.
Okay. Can I just, I know that was your last thing. My last thing?
Yeah.
We need to discuss this tomb situation, okay? How the pants did they just not burn alive? They had a freaking torch underneath the freaking tomb. The whole thing is what is it? What was it? Not petroleum, but like petrol. They catch the whole top level catches on fire. I have so many issues with that one scene. I'm not gonna, maybe not issue, but I'm like, I have questions. Like, did you notice that they have a freaking fire in the tomb underneath them when the tomb falls over?
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I totally.
Why didn't it catch on fire?
Why didn't it catch on fire? No, you're right.
What is happening? That freaking. That's like the only gripe I have with this whole film is that one. Like, whereas like in the Raiders of the Lost Ark, I had some small little other funny gripes, but it's just like it's fun. It's good. But this one. That's the only gripe I have. It's like, what is happening in this scene? They're like, when they have the whole, rats in situation, and then like, which is fine. I love that they find it, but then the whole thing gets lit up on fire, and they decide to dump it, and I'm like, there's the fire still in this
library, or in this tomb.
In the tomb, but on top of that, the freaking library.
Library, yeah.
They come out, and there's like. Nothing's in the library is cut off, or like there's no smokes or something. Like, what the heck's going on? Why are police not there?
No, you're right.
Also, how are they busting up a floor
and no one notices? Yeah,
I think they were. I can't remember if they said they were closing or not.
Or were they closing?
I don't know. Anyways, I can't remember. This might have made it sound. That's like the only gripe. That's like the only gripe with this that I have.
I'm glad you got that out. It was itching. You just needed.
Oh, dude, I was telling you, like. I was watching that scene and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, why? This 1 + 1 = 2. Why is this not equaling 2 right now? I'm telling you, man. When you watch, you're gonna think about it next time you watch this
now
scene,
next time, now it's gonna be like,
you're like, dang it, Danny.
That Danny.
That's why it's not 100%. Is that one scene? No, just kidding.
What a great movie! What a great movie.
Fantastic, man. I'm like emotional. Just thinking about how great this movie is. And because I'm so glad you made me do this podcast. You forced me. You were like, Danny, we're doing this podcast whether you like it or not. That's not true.
That's not true. But I'm glad we watched this. I'm really glad we did.
Dude, truly just a wonderful review. It like rewatch. It is so rewatchable. Top 5 movies for me for sure.
I'm adding this to like my yearly rewatch of movies.
Yeah,
it's definitely on there now.
We hoped that you enjoyed this episode. It is a bit longer than as we've done quite a few of these. I'm sorry. But we just had so many good things to say. We wanted to make sure that we got the things that we wanted to say. Let us know. Send us an email. We really want to know what you guys are thinking. If you don't want to send us an email, comment. Stop. If you got this far, we love you. Okay? Comment on YouTube. Comment up what your thoughts are. Tell us what is your favorite scene. And then second, do you believe that this is a perfect movie? Those are the two things we want to know. And if you do that, we know that you listen to it and you are the real MVPs. Okay. If you are listening to us on an episode on wherever you get your podcast, which is wherever we are published, we'd love it if you can answer those same questions in a review, leaving a 5-star if you so wish, or I don't want to start letting us know why you think this is the worst movie. Which I doubt you would do, because if you do, I might hunt you down and give you a popsicle and tell you you're wrong.
And squeeze the neck harder. No.
Tell you.
But yeah, feel free to connect with us. Again, on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, at Real Chumps. You can also connect with me, Marcel, on Twitter at Marstrosity, MARZTROSITY.
I'm on Rubio_TV or Rubio.tv on social media.
Join us next week. We're going to be talking Dial of Destiny. So
Are we talking Dial of Destiny?
Yeah.
Is that what's in the notes?
Next on cue.
No, it's not.
Yeah. No, we've just been watching Indiana Jones for no reason. I mean, you don't need a reason to watch Indiana Jones, but yeah, we're leading up to Dial of Destiny. So
wait, are we doing Temple of Doom and Dial of Destiny in this one?
No.
We're just going to do Dial of Destiny. I mean, sorry. Oh, why? My brain literally just put Crystal Skull as Dial of Destiny.
Oh, you thought Dial of Destiny was Crystal?
For some reason, I knew, in my brain, I registered Dial of Destiny, but its brain slot was
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was coming up. I'm like, we're not reviewing that. We better be.
You know what, listeners? We will get to Temple of Doom and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I watched them all. Okay,
I will be watching,
and I do have a lot of thoughts on both Temple of Doom and Crystal Skull. I think it merits a discussion.
It does.
But let us know. Actually, let us know. Should we tackle those now? Wait for them later. But we're definitely doing Dial of Destiny because that's coming out.
And I'm so excited.
And super excited. So
I said we're not going to watch it together.
Yeah, no, we're not.
Because I'm going to be in Boston.
You are.
Because you're going to go see it in theaters.
No,
this weekend,
yeah,
right?
This weekend, yeah.
I can't take my girls to go see it. So I'm probably not going to be able to see it until I get back, bro. So that means that we might be able to see it together.
Yeah, I'll go watch it again.
Of course you will.
Yeah, I'll go watch it again.
And then you can be there while I get it for the first time. Anyways. Sorry, I digressed. I messed up.
Come back. Join us next week. Dial of Destiny. Let's hope it's good. Let's hope it's a good, I don't want to say conclusion, but a good addition to the Indiana Jones legacy.
We'll see you next week.
Later.